It's that time of year when we put blade to wood and help our shrubs and trees to become the best versions of themselves. Some of us are excited. Others are frankly dreading it. We aim to channel that excitement, alleviate any anxiety, and set you loose on another pruning season. And we're definitely going to need the Dixter bell today on the Garden Mixer.
Ready to go with the bell. Thank you, Jonathan, who Marianne met in person almost by accident this past weekend, right?
Yes, had a wonderful time. Jonathan Bykowski, who's on the chat a lot on Substack, and he had I sat down accidentally next to him. He knew I'd be at this conference, and he handed me a Dixter bell, and it's perfectly timed, Jonathan, because we are going to be talking about pruning, and I went to that symposium last year, and so much of that information is just sort of fomenting in my brain, and I'm excited to apply it again. And Leslie is not as excited probably to hear it.
I'm excited to talk about pruning. I don't have the bell, and that makes sense because I like to prune the way I like to prune. And I'm sure I would have learned wonderful things from Fergus, but I have a lot of experience pruning, and I've always been not shy about anything and not shy about pruning. So I'm pleased that we're going to talk about it. Hey, so we have a very appropriate cocktail that you found,
We
and I
do.
have in my hand, and I think you better say the name of it because it kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies.
It's called a poo driver. And
Are you okay
for
with
those
that,
of you,
y'all?
so for those of you on YouTube who are looking at this, you'll know why. Now, I actually went out and bought prune juice today. It has prune juice in it. That's why we got it. It's
Pruning, prune juice. Do you
pruning,
get it?
prune juice, and I actually put as a little garnish some old hydrangea leaves. Now, actually, did you ask your friend Chat if these are poisonous?
Yeah,
Because I
my
can't
friend
remember.
Chat said that's highly toxic, so don't let that
Oh, okay,
dribble
I'm gonna
too.
take those off then.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay, look good
I
for a
don't
minute,
think they were
thanks.
dunked in there for very long. I think probably the alcohol deadened them. So this has got an amazing amount of different ingredients in it. We'll put it on the Substack notes, links, and laughs. Cheers.
Cheers. I like. I'm not overwhelmed.
Oh,
I'm not
that's good.
underwhelmed.
It's a nice
I'm
dry,
well.
lots of
Yeah,
flavor.
not too
Yeah.
sweet.
No, not too sweet at all. I went to the store, to my local co-op, to pick up the prune juice because I don't have it on hand. And as I'm standing there with only prune juice in my hands at the counter, 55 years
Everybody's
old,
making assumptions about your insides.
and I could just see him, this little, attractive 30-year-old man standing behind the counter, just looking at me like, "Oh, it's so sad when they go downhill." And I just said, "It's actually for a cocktail." And he nodded like this.
Sure, sure.
And he didn't like do the sure, but he did the, "Oh, really? Yeah."
So she has another problem too.
And then I went over to the ABC and got the vodka. All right.
Okay, oh, true confessions, because I'm a lazy shopper. After I sent Jeff to the market for the good prune juice, I'm like, "Please make it from California and a lemon." I, realized we had no vodka. So, this is made with not vodka, but tequila, and it's quite nice. She has no comment for that. I have silenced
That
her.
sounds yeah, I know. I think you've ruined the cocktail, but that's okay. It's a very fun cocktail. Let me tell you who it's from. Hold on. Oh, that's
Vodka
right.
has no taste. I've got a little taste here.
Shayna Lowe Banyan of Cafe Mutton in Hudson, New York came up with this, and,
Wow.
we're liking it. She is a mixologist behind the bar.
Will
She's a
she grant me
bartender.
forgiveness for improvising? And I further improvised on my second one because I do have a second one sitting there because 'cause I'm
Wow.
me. I ran out of lemon juice, so I used lime, so I'll let you
That's what
know.
vacation
Yeah.
does for you listeners. So I should explain the Dixter bell, actually. I should explain what that is for those who went, "What on earth are you talking about?" Both Leslie and I met at Great Dixter at a symposium. We had known each other before. through her podcast. I was interviewed on that a couple times. We had a good time together. And then we both ended up not knowing that the other would be there at the symposium. Had a great time, learned a ton, and really extremely action packed 7 days. I went back for two further symposia after that. It's a garden in Sussex, and very well known. Fergus Garrett is the head gardener there, and Christopher Lloyd, the garden writer who wrote The Well-Tempered Garden, was the gardener who brought it to life to everyone. So we tend to say Dixter just a little too much, and we need to train ourselves to stop saying it. And I thought the best way to do it was I threatened to get a bell. So when it came out of our mouths, we'd hit the bell, and then, it's enough bells. And you think, oh, right, we've got to come up with something new. Right. But it's
But then
good
again,
stuff.
there's that thing like bells, more bells are good, like gotta have more cowbells. So I wonder if this is gonna work the opposite way.
More cowbell.
We have some clear up corners to do because we're us. And would you like to lead us off on that?
I would. I was researching the notes, links, and laughs for the compost episode, which aired 2 weeks ago. And I found that my idea of what a compost tumbler costs is sort of back in time in the 90s, where when I went to go get one, and they were $400 because Mantis ruled the market at that time. So when I say a $400 compost tumbler and you're looking online and going, why wasn't she just buying? Well, what was the North American trade agreement hadn't gone through at that point. I think they didn't have all this made in China stuff. And Mantis really ruled the market. So the Mantis is still, I think, the Cadillac, and it's still out there, and it's still around that price, and it's still made in America. But there are other cheaper compost tumblers. All right.
Good to know. I was talking about Acuba japonica, and I said that it was zone 5, but Marianne did some research on that, and she dashes my hopes. I basically took that plant, Acuba japonica, and brought it with me on a spring break to Fort Lauderdale, but no, it's not. Even Tony Avent from Plant Delights, Tony says that it's zone 7 through 9, and he loves to push zones. So I was just having a fever dream, and that's all I can say about that.
I think you could say 6. Monrovia says 6, but I couldn't find anywhere where it was 5. Was that your friend Chat talking to you again, Leslie, in your dreams?
No, I get my information from. I immediately went back to MOBOT, Missouri Botanical Database, and their information was accurate, which means I was having a fever dream.
Oh, you were just having a dream. Okay. My Acuba, I'm in 6B. And my Acuba japonica right now, at the end of a pretty long storm, a lot of cold weather, is looking a little sad, but it's definitely not dead. It's not dead, it's just resting. So I think 6 is probably fine. But I texted Erin Shannon and said, "You grow this? Can you grow Acuba japonica?" And she's like, "Yeah, no." So
And why did you ask, you bitch?
thanks for rubbing salt in the wound, Marianne. Okay. Next, in a related note, I can never remember which cultivar I grow. It is not sulfurous, it is sulfur. Why do I have to make it more complicated with sulfurous? That's one of the cultivars I grow, and it's lovely. And then also with indistinct flowers, I was right on the tiny little flowers that you hardly see in a shrub when you're talking about them. When they don't have real flower parts that are very distinguishable, they're indistinct. However, that doesn't really describe an Acuba flower, because Acuba flowers do actually have little petals. You can see them. They're just
Huh.
tiny. They're just tiny, and I never see them. But remember, they're dioecious, so I probably just have well, no, it doesn't matter. They're both going to have flowers. Gosh, Marianne, wow, I need
It's
to go
just the
back.
seeds,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just
I
who's
screwed
who's
that
a
up last
girl and
time.
who's a boy, who's got a womb and who ain't.
And my last one is that I just was so mad at myself when I was, editing on the compost episode, because I literally said, we're talking about what to do about sticks in the yard, and you can put them into a nest or something, and I said, "Oh, you could just have your husband give a good whack to the bigger pieces of debris and have them, have be a good size to put in the fireplace for kindling." And I thought, "Well, have your husband do that? What the heck is that about?" I One of the best things I've ever done is to get myself, some wedges so that I could split my own wood in the backyard. In our relationship, my husband has never done anything like that, has never owned a saw, has never built a fire, has never lit the fire, has never tended the fire. So I have no idea. I love my husband dearly, but that is not his thing. He does other things very, very well. I have no idea
So you're
why I said
reclaiming
that.
your masculinity right now.
I am.
Yes, rightly so.
Chopping wood and sawing wood, it's good fun,
Yeah.
and we're
Okay.
gonna talk about that today.
I didn't even notice that because I would have accused you of being a girly girl, and usually I don't.
Ah,
I
it was
don't.
a yucky
Yeah,
thing
I
to say,
usually
I
take my
apologize.
opportunities. Let's
Mhm.
talk about Substack real quick. If you are on Substack, in order to get the notes, links, and laughs that come with this show, and or to be part of the One More Sip committed community and become a paid subscriber and get one more sip every other week. That's our little episode where we stick to one topic.
Usually.
Then you saw how I got on there and talked about why we're on Substack, why we've made that choice, because we recognize that sometimes it's just a step too far. It's just too much. One more platform. Please don't make us. And, I expected better from you, Marianne. You don't want us to all be addled. But I wanted to speak to listeners to say the reason that we are on there is because it is the easiest way to get you full show notes. And that means all of the plants that we're going to talk about, every single one that we mention, will be listed botanically and with its common name in those show notes. The links that we talk about, products that we might mention, people that we might mention. I'm sure there will be something about more cowbell in this particular note so that you can go see that skit one
One
more
of the best
time.
SNL skits
It
ever.
really is more cowbell. Um, so that's the reason that we do that. It goes straight to your inbox if you want it. Now, if you don't want it to go to your inbox and you just want to get on Substack every once in a while, you don't have to. You can change all those settings. So you don't have to have it notifying you at all the time. Substack is changing a little bit. They are becoming a little bit less about long form writers and they're starting to bring more short form stuff on there. And so there is a notes section, which is sort of like a feed and that can take you down some rabbit holes. You don't need to do that. You can just get on, search for us or search for whoever you want to read about or hear from and then get off again. So think about that. It really is the easiest way for us to get in touch with you. And of course, if you're on Substack and you have become a paid subscriber, and thank you very much because we love your support, you are then part of the One More Sip committed community, which is a wonderful group all over the United States that you exchange information in chat, you get those notes, and you get the audio episode there. That is not on Spotify. And Leslie's going to tell you about something else you're going to get.
So Marianne's the Substack expert. We have to divide and conquer with this stuff, and I am the not expert person on YouTube. Last week's episode, or 2 weeks ago, the, compost episode, we talked about how the One More Sip videos were going to be available on YouTube. Well, I couldn't figure that out, plus we didn't want to make you, like, possibly have to pay twice to see those episodes. So I am going to put the One More Sip episodes in video form with a few photographs slid in. I can't be a slave to my computer. I have some gardening to do. And you could see our eye rolls, our nodding, our drinking, our silliness, because we do get a little silly with those episodes. And they are available for you on YouTube, but you can only get access to them on Substack, where you will find a link to that playlist. And that's as clear as mud, but it's the best we
Well,
can do.
and the link will never change. So once you've got that link, you'll be able to get to that playlist. So that should
Yeah.
work. We're hopeful. We're not techno wizards.
Well,
We're gardeners. Damn it, Jim.
I know. Damn it, Jim. People down there. I have 2 apologies to make for listeners who I hope are listening. Lisa McCade and Jody Ann on YouTube both made this leap when I thought, "Oh, okay, we're gonna have this paywall on YouTube." We are not having a paywall on YouTube. 2 people did go there. I apologized, via comment to Jody, but I couldn't find how to do that with Lisa. And with YouTube, you just can't find that person and say, hey, awfully sorry that you joined and now it's a non-join thing. And if you want to go to Substack, but Lisa, I hope you're listening to the podcast. We really appreciate your potential support on YouTube, and we hope you go to Substack if you want to see more of us.
It's a lot of
Thank
groveling,
you.
Leslie. I mean, that
I
was,
know.
it was
Well,
like
they
2 minutes
made this
worth.
leap, and then I said, "Oh no, we're not doing that." And so, anyway, sorry. Pruning, love it. Love to get out a saw, as I said earlier, and
cut some stuff up.
make some piles, do some damage. But it's not surgery, although it can be. And we're going to talk about pruning that has gone wrong for us. And one of my biggest pruning jobs that I ever did was all about anger. But we'll go into that later. Mostly pruning is about editing, and it's about editing well. I was very specific on how my gardeners, when I had a crew, when I had my business, I should have a bell for that, ding, ding, on how we did
yeah,
it.
I think we should use it for that too. Is that okay, Jonathan? We're going to definitely use it for when I had a business and Dixter.
When I had my gardening business,
Oh, wait, it didn't work. I think it has to be down. There we go.
there it is. I really looked over their shoulders until I knew that they understood how to leave something looking quite good. It's important. It's important. And I have some basics on just, how to for more beginning gardeners, and it's an easy thing to remember. What do you want to take away? And those three things are to think about are dead. Take away anything that's dead, that's not helping and it doesn't look good. Damaged, if it's bent or sad, or direction. And by direction, that means several things. One of them is it hitting you in the face when you walk by? I mean, come on, we don't need that. Get rid of it. Is it going opposite to where you think it should go so that the aesthetic qualities of your shrub or tree are not looking so good? Are they growing upwards, downwards, inwards? Are they rubbing or crossing? So all of those direction things are good reasons to take something away.
I think the rubbing and the crossing is probably the first place to start, isn't it? When you're looking, I mean,
Yeah,
well,
you
maybe
can
let's say the dead and the diseased would be first, then rubbing, crossing, and then
You've taken away
direction.
my teacherly 3Ds.
I'm sorry. No, okay, wait, rubbing, crossing. Where is that? Where does the rubbing, crossing come in your Ds?
Dead, damaged, direction. Now, what sort of direction? These are subtopics. Do you know what an outline is? In the sub
Well, you don't. I've looked at your notes, girl.
we're indenting. I know. No,
It's like look like
formatting is a
a
problem. I can write
crazed
it out.
schizophrenic wrote these.
No, underneath direction. Is it going the wrong way? Is it hitting you in the head? Is it, rubbing against another branch? Is
Trying
it
to
a
think of
water
a
spout
word for
that's,
that.
a
Starts
beautiful
with
branch that's
D.
going this way and it's going like that because it's a water spout? All those direction things are encompassed in my third D. Now, you can illuminate us further with different letters if you want.
That's fine. I cannot come up with a D word for that.
Okay.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn, I need to cut those. The rubbing branches are always the difficult one because you're sitting there thinking, this one is really good, but then it's rubbing up there like another 6 inches taller and it really has to go. And those decisions are the tough ones. But I think that before we get into what we're doing, we should probably say why we're doing it. Why are we pruning? These plants are fine on their own out there living their
Not if they have those things going on.
life. Oh, they
Mhm.
are, though. I mean, nature is doing all sorts of weird, dead, diseased, half the plant's dead, half of it's alive. On their own, these shrubs and trees are fine. It's really because we want to enhance the garden. We want to enhance their shape. Hopefully, you're not into bondage. It's not really bondage, is it? It's more like masochism, sort of gumball-y. Yeah, you know where I'm going with this, right?
No.
Like you're taking this beautiful freewheeling shrub that's not necessarily a topiary species and you're making it something it doesn't want to be. And I'm talking about the Forsythia gumball right now, folks. Okay, the
It's coming.
Forsythia hedge. You East Coast gardeners, you know who you are. You Midwestern gardeners, you know you're guilty.
Guilty. I protest.
Guilty. All right, Miss Harris in the
The
back.
Forsythia gumball makes you happy. by golly, you must like to prune because they don't want to stay gumballs. But if it makes you happy,
How,
it's your garden. Come
how can
on.
this make you happy? How, what fevered brain? How did, because forsythia, if you do that to a forsythia, and it's always being done at the wrong time of year, so you only have about 10 blossoms.
As opposed to the great swaths of, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
So,
I hear you.
so there's so many other things that are more topiary species that would lend themselves, like yew or boxwood or like 1,000 things that are
Well,
not coming to my head right now. Even an arborvitae. Why can I never say that word? Just thuya, just
you want to ring the
thuya.
bell.
Okay, it's just arborvitae. Um, um,
Any sort of topiary that you wanna make is, forsythia is really probably doesn't wanna be topiary,
it's
but
a
like I
hard
said, if
one.
you wanna make a topiary, it's your garden, you can
You go
edit
ahead.
out for your own self her part of the podcast, and I would just like to say that
Leslie's
you,
trying to
again,
do it constantly anyway.
let me reiterate that you must love pruning because that's a hard plant to put into a meatball.
So that what for me when I'm pruning, I'm sort of looking at a shrub or tree the same way that Michelangelo looked at the marble. It wasn't what he wanted to create, it's what the marble wanted to create. I'm not saying I'm Michelangelo, Leslie. Stop looking at me like that. I'm saying that I'm looking at this shrub because every single one is different. I don't care if you've got the same species all over your property. Every single one is a little different. And I'm saying, what is it you want to be? How do you want to be the best version of yourself? I mean, I'm extremely enabling and generous, I think. And then from there, I'm going to try and help it become that through my poor ability. Is that a little more humble?
Oh, yeah, the humble brag.
Okay.
She's
So
good. She's good.
that's what I'm doing. And if you can stand back and just sort of say, look at that shrub. I'm looking at a viburnum right now out of the window, which is sort of my nemesis at the moment because I don't think it wants to be anything. So I have to stand back and say, what is it that will give it the best shape to show off those blossoms? And maybe that means not having as many as it might want to set for my garden. So I may want to decide to pull off some of that wood so that I don't have that, like, too many blossoms, right? Did you just fall asleep during that, or I'm
No, I was just thinking about how you said that if you prune the forsythia, then you'd get rid of some of the blossoms. Once again,
that's a
people can
different thing, though. That's a different thing. When you're pruning into a gumball shape for forsythia, or you're pruning into a hedge for forsythia, or
oh,
for
that's a
maybe like an
ridiculous
abelia or
looking hedge.
something.
I do protest the forsythia hedge.
Oh, okay. So
I've never seen one.
evidently Leslie said that that's not okay, but the gumball is totally okay. Do take note, listeners, her blatant hypocrisy. If you're pruning those into a hedge, you've got something that's just got little tiny bits of odd flowers on, not dead wood, but a mass of brown wood. It's not a beautiful thing. Now, if I've got a viburnum and I want to take half of the flowers off that so that it frames the rest of the flowers, that's a very different thing. I'm taking full branches off so that I can, enjoy the shape of it and not feel like, whoa, baseball,
What was that last word? Baseball?
baseball.
In your face?
Baseball. I'm thinking of this viburnum that I have called it's called Opening Day, and it's from Bailey's, and it's actually a very strong viburnum. And it's really not this viburnum's fault. It's more about where I put it, and it's about the deer who used to live here, who no longer live here, and what that meant for the shape of it. And so we've got to renegotiate our relationship because this is actually a very strong viburnum, beautiful blossom. These blossoms are baseball. They are like a baseball. It's called Opening Day. And it's very, very well named. So I need to figure out what I want from this, what I need from it, where it is. And maybe that means opening up the bottom a little bit more now. I had to prune it into a standard and that didn't work for me and I had to do that because of the deer were eating it, nibbling it at the bottom.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it can be different every time. Don't you do your shrubs differently every time, or are you just sort of, giving up?
Oh, no, I definitely have a look, and I see what it's telling me. Just to go back for any new gardeners, why would you need to get rid of crossing branches? It's like a skin knee, which I just recently had for the first time in many years. Um,
Ouch. Ouch.
I went down in Australia.
A skin
I
knee.
was
Oh, I
walking.
can still feel what that feels like. Ouch.
It lasted for a month. It was a bad one. I thought stitches for a minute. I'm like, "No, no, that's just a lot of skin gone." And, at our funny age, it's like when you fall, you're ready for the chorus of, "Oh my god.
She
Oh my god.
fell. She
She's a
fell.
broken creature. Call the 911." But I heard nothing. I heard crickets popped up and mopped it up. Anyway, why would you want to get rid of crossing branches? Because of skin knees, because of open bark situations that invite disease. And it's pretty much as simple as that. We could go into examples of diseases, but then you would fall asleep. So, on to
Yeah, I
more
just went
pruning.
out a little bit there. So, yeah.
I don't pontificate as much as you do, girl.
True. So I think that we've figured out why we're going to do it. We're going to make these plants bend to our will. No, we're trying to make them better. They were trying
Yeah.
to highlight some of their strengths, and we have so many different kinds of shrubs and trees with arching and compact branches and sort of see through, and there's just so many effects you can create in your garden with pruning. And the very first ornamental gardener I ever knew, because my parents were much more subsistence gardeners. My father did not understand the idea. Why would you plant things for ornamental? Very vegetable orientated. The first one that I ever knew, he was an extraordinary gardener, and he said, I love pruning. Pruning is my favorite part. So it's sort of like birthdays. It's got to be done. So get your head around liking it. Get your head around this is the fun part. This is something that's cool. And then once you do that, it's less dreadful. And every single mistake that you make is a real learning opportunity because there's nothing like shame to stop you from doing it again. And that will stick with you forever. And it'll just be shame in your own head because, there's no pruning police coming over and saying you just amputated that and that was wrong.
Well, there is if you're, get the bell ready,
Okay.
running business. Because you have to leave it looking good, not just for yourself. You can't have mistakes. So here's a technique that we had for pruning boxwoods. If we were in a hurry and we had to do a lot of boxwood pruning, we would actually shear the outside of a boxwood, which is not a good thing to do in general. If you have a specimen, and you're trying to shape it into something, you could possibly do that. But when your picture is shears going across half of a boxwood leaf, which would then probably turn brown. So it's not the fine gardening that we wish we had time for as a crew. Sometimes still we had to do it. Now, the other problem with shearing is that when you cut off the end of a plant, and I'm showing this, but sorry if you're only listening, two things grow so that there will be an extreme amount of growth, too
That's
much
a
growth
very
on the out.
technical thing. That was a technical way of saying that. Go on.
Oh, do you have a more technical way of
No, I
saying that?
don't. I just want to make fun of you. Two things grow.
Two things grow. It branches out, and so you have a very, very thick growth on the outside of bushes like that, ilex, boxwood, I'm sure there are plenty of others.
You create brooms. Yeah.
You create brooms, and
Yeah.
there's very little interior growth. So what you can do if you're in a hurry and you wanna shear, you can still fix that situation by doing what we called reaching in. And so just every once in a while, you would reach into the outside and take away a bigger branch. So your job was done, the bush was shaped, and yet you created these air pockets. Now, here's where making a mistake, was fixed. If somebody in my crew or I made too big of a hole because we grabbed an interior branch and we cut it without really looking at the surface area of the end of that part of the plant,
Mhm.
this is your fix. You do that again a few feet away, and you do that again a few feet away. So it looks intentional.
I was gonna say, maybe you get some twine and you tie those 2 branches on either
You can
side
do that, I
together and,
suppose.
like, sort of move them in.
But more air in a shrub like that is not a bad thing for the plant.
No.
It might you don't want a bunch of little holes and then one big hole for the client to come home and look at. Several big holes makes the client think, "Oh, guess they were putting some air in that one."
Well, if you don't have a business, then you're not under the microscope for anybody but yourself. And so don't be so timid that you feel like I don't want to make a mistake, so I'm not going to even try. Don't step away. We talked about this last year. We were listening to a podcast where the advice was, if you're not really sure, step away. Now, we promote a type of stepping away, but it's when you have fully committed to pruning this shrub or tree, and then you must step away because you've got to continuously be pulling back, looking at what you've done, looking at
From all
what
angles.
from all angles, and then going back in. And when you're going back in, make sure that you've got that branch that you decided that was going to come out in your sight. Don't close your eyes and get yourself back way down in there and think, oh, I think this was it, because it won't be. It'll be a different one. So constant stepping back is absolutely necessary, but don't step back so far that you end up in the house on the couch reading a book about pruning. Okay.
Another, and not doing it. Another technique for pruning that some of my newer gardeners were generally, they didn't come to this as easily. They would cut something that needed to be cut in order to maintain the outside shape of whatever they were working on. But then they didn't realize that what they had left, we called them candles. They had left a stick with no foliage. And so that had to go because
Mm.
nobody wants to be looking at a stick with no foliage. That's one that it's very clear you have to reach back. I don't know how far, but nobody wants to see that stick. Probably not you as you're personally pruning for yourself, or if you're doing a gift prune for my neighbor down the street. I'm just
That's
making
right.
stuff
And
up now
it's
because I
always
don't want
nice
to
to
see
have
yours.
extra sticks, to whip the children and yourself or what have you, later. So I definitely pull them off. I love this idea of reaching in. That is such a smart thing because it not only does everything that you said. I'm
All those good things.
all those good things. I was, paying attention to something else at the time. It not only does all those things that Leslie talked about, but it also creates texture in a shrub. So so you're not like Leslie was talking about, not having too much rigidity. That's texture. That's
Mhm.
texture. And that is particularly good for conifers when you're standing in a conifer, because a lot of conifers need to be pruned. I have a blue point juniper, which is sold as, here's your skinny little juniper that's going to go in your, yard, and it gets middle-aged fast. It is very, very spreading. And I have to go in and very carefully take out branches, and I have to get in deep and in different places and create some texture, because if I sheared it, it just wouldn't work. That's not the way that junipers grow. And the same thing with my arbor vitae. See, I'm going to do it again. My thuya. I'm not saying arbor vitae again. Well, oh my gosh, really seriously, what's wrong with me?
We could list the ways.
Say it again. Arbor
Bite tea.
arborvitae thuya. I have a thuya hedge of green giant, and it's inspired by chanticleers because this particular cultivar is one that the deer weren't eating. They would rub their heads against, but I couldn't grow box because it was too much worry that box blight would come in and destroy 10 years worth of growth and work. And I couldn't grow yew and all those things. So I have this thuya hedge, but it has to be hand pruned so that it doesn't look like it has just been sharp, just sheared. And it needs to be topped carefully. And you still have to have those edges, but you're doing this, by hand. And I'm going to use the Dixter bell real quick. There we go. When I was at the pruning symposium last year, Fergus Garrett was taking us around to all of these different shrubs to have us work on them, and then would have the gardeners work on them, and we would watch, and vice versa. And we come up to an arborvitae, did not do it again.
Thuya.
Whatever. Thuya. we come up to this thuya, and he talks about the different ways you could approach it, pulls out a battery-operated shearing. What do you call it? A zzz.
Shears?
What am I talking about?
Shears? Battery
Not
operated
shear.
shears?
Yeah, battery-operated trimmer.
Okay.
And then just takes a slice down it. Just takes a big old slice and says, so you could do this, but it's not going to give you a lot of texture. And instead, you need to be reaching in, and then looks over at Coralie and says, which is his assistant head gardener, and says, so Coralie, would you, if you just, work on that today and fix it up? That's not, it's just sort of like, and she's like, oh my God, you just took this huge,
How do I
huge
fix that?
flat edge to this thing. And now I've got to spend, it's like somebody just took a huge amount of your hair, cut a huge, big chunk of it, and then said, so work your haircut around that. So you can shear like that, but it's so much better for texture if you move in and out with your pruners.
Yeah. So many different types of pruning, and shearing is a type of pruning, but that's you're definitely only hitting the outside, so you might want to also reach in. Um, there's light pruning where you're just like, oh, a few things here and there, a
That's like
few
a nip and a tuck.
yeah,
That's a
crazy
yeah.
pieces. And I call them crazy, so I got to take care of that crazy. I got to climb that ladder, and there's a crazy that's driving me crazy, so I need to get rid of it. There's convenience pruning. So I did that last summer at my friend's house when I was staying there, because
Describe convenience pruning. This is a
when
new
you're
one.
walking to the car in the driveway and you have to duck because there's a branch in the way. And the
Oh.
branch is doing nothing for anybody except making you duck. And so they were out of town. We were staying at their house, and I grabbed a saw and got rid of it, and nobody was the wiser.
A lineman did some convenience pruning for me once, and I just about kicked him.
Oh,
It
the
was
roses. You told that story.
Yeah, where
Tell it
we're
again.
talking and standing by the box, and I've got this climbing rose going up the house, and we're talking about the electrical feed, and as we're talking, he reaches out with his pruners and just cuts one of the canes near the box. Doesn't say anything, just cuts it. Like, okay, that's the kind of convenience pruning that's gonna get you a kick in the gonads. Luckily, I had small children running around and I couldn't do that, but I was very, very, very cross.
But there's no reason to be hit on the head with a brand, so you can get rid
No,
of that.
agreed. Mhm.
Um, I wanna quickly talk about something that I call rejuvenation pruning, but you call it something else. Re re I've heard you call it something else.
Vitalization,
Re
renovation?
renovation, and I call it
Mhm.
rejuvenation. I have no
Same
idea.
thing.
Yeah, it is. It's when you really just wanna get rid of something, but that thing there's a
It's
caveat.
half dead.
It's no or it's in the wrong place, it's the wrong thing, it's the wrong shape, you're sick of
Yeah.
dealing with it, but it probably has a fantastic, well-established root system.
Mm.
So, will it just grow back if you cut it to smithereens and not do the usual, what is that vague rule of thumb? Probably don't try
Third.
not to remove a third of a plant at any one pruning session. That's a very vague rule of thumb. If you have to, you have to, but that's generally better for the plant's survival if you can go easy and remove a third at the most. Rejuvenation pruning, remove as much as you want and see what happens when and if it grows back. If it grows back, you've saved yourself a shopping trip. And if it doesn't, you get to go shopping. There's also something that you might want to do if a plant is in the wrong place and you just never wanted it there. When we were very young and we had young children, I was the basketball coach at the school across the street. We had a long, skinny backyard, and I knew that my children, who were then sort of 3 and 5, would be having a wonderful, throw in that backyard if I could just get rid of this beautiful red maple. It was just the wrong plant in the wrong place. And I thought about that, and I thought about that. And, you don't do things right away when you move into a house. But as the basketball season started, and one of the best players after 2 weeks proving herself to me that she would be my starting point guard, decided that, Mrs. Harris, I think I'll try ice hockey. I went home from practice, gave the children some macaroni and cheese or whatever, and said, I'll just be outside for a little while. And that red maple, which was a full 20 feet tall, came down in an hour.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me you put sports above plants?
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about that.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a basic thing for me. Huh, I never had to compare them much, but
I would have been like, well, there's a sports field over there, girls.
and this is my garden.
This is my garden." Yeah, I spent a lot of time sort of landscaping my children out of my garden, which was probably I did give them a small bit of lawn, in the very back. But, they liked flowers, and paths are fun to wander
Well, you
down,
said they
and
did, or you made them say they
I
did,
did. Well,
whatever the
they went
truth
on
might
lots of
be.
walks. We went down to the towpath and the experience. They got a lot, okay? I'm not gonna take any
Okay.
guilt off of this. I needed an outlet.
Speaking of guilt, and you're so good at this sort of thing, I need to know what
Hold
was
on, let
your
me get the
biggest Yeah, yeah, there it is. What was your biggest mistake ever pruning? Or just some big mistake that we can all enjoy hearing
We
about?
had talked about this earlier, and I don't think that I've ever made a mistake that was so big that it's just that memorable, with the exception of the bleeding last year on the
Oh,
cornice.
yes.
It was a horrible thing. So here's the deal, listeners. There are certain species that it's just better to prune in the summer months because when the sap is rising in that very early winter, or I'm sorry, very late winter, and it's when you don't think the sap could possibly be rising because everything feels very cold and dead. But the maples are starting to drip on you. That's when you're tapping those trees in the ice, right? The sap rises in these things, you prune them, and they start to look like they're bleeding to death. It's species like maple, walnut, birch, um,
And cornice for you, right?
yeah, cornice, hornbeam, acer, may. So the best thing to do is if you don't want the guilt of that, because it is to prune them in sort of midsummer. And that's not such a bad idea too, because you can get a good idea of shape with the leaves on them. But something like red twig or yellow twig dogwood, you want them to be beautiful in the winter with their beautiful, beautiful stems. And then you want to bring them down, cut them so that you get that new growth and you get the very, very red or very, very yellow stems, or at least half of them for the next year. And so you're doing that at this time of year for March 6th. It's probably starting to get a little late to be doing that without the bleeding. So I did this in late March last year with my Arctic sun cornice. They bled and bled and bled and bled and started to grow mold on the bleeding. They just didn't stop. And I thought, okay, they're dead. And they weren't. They were fine. I went through I feel like it was like 2.5 weeks of just, oh gosh, every time I walked
I
past
remember
them.
hearing about it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you did. But they were fine. It was okay. And my feeling is if you did that every year at the wrong time, you would weaken that shrub.
I can't imagine that you wouldn't.
Yeah. So it's probably a better idea that you do that a little earlier than you might think you'd want to. We want to keep those stems looking beautiful all the way until the time that the bud breaks and spring is here. But think about it: if you cut those stems, you can then use them in arrangements in pots around your house. And the bonus of that is that those Cornus sericea, Cornus sanguinea, they will root very, very easily. So you can have more of those shrubs non-patented. And it's a good thing all around. So maybe a little bit earlier than you might think on that. Otherwise, there's really nothing that I've done that couldn't be undone and that wasn't like, "Oh, wow, that's just you've lost hundreds of dollars," or anything. But have you got one of those?
Yeah, and I've also told this story before, but I'll be quick. And it was my son who called me out on it, which was weird. I don't know if he was a gardener in another life, but I was kind of going to town on a boxwood hedge that went around my parterre in my home in Connecticut. And he said, "Isn't it kind of late in the season to be pruning?" And I'm like, "Oh, I need to neaten these things up." And sure enough, we had a very brutal winter, and I lost a few plants, and they were difficult to replace because it was a very proper little parterre. And I had to get oh, what kind of boxwood was that? And I had to replace them and trim them down or let them grow up. So Yeah, pruning too late in the season on an evergreen especially, it needs that protection. I would say that, new gardeners might be scared of pruning flowers off if they really love the flower on a flowering shrub or tree, and therefore, it's a
Mm.
pretty easy fix on that. Just figure out what you have, figure out when it flowers, and prune it after it flowers.
That was such a condensed version of the reality of that.
I know you wanna go on and on like that, on this topic for the next 30 minutes, but I just made it so that it would be difficult for you, and
You
if you
gave
did it,
them no information.
I gave them all the information they need.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's just bring up hydrangea. Everybody always wants to know about
Oh,
hydrangea.
that's more
We've
nuanced.
got a lot of
That's
new listeners, a lot of new mixers. So let's talk
We should
hydrangea.
do an entire episode on when to
No,
prune your hydration.
I'll give you 5 minutes. No, I won't even give you that. I'll give you
Please do.
3. You can get 30 seconds per species. Old wood, new wood. If you want those flowers, you do not want to prune off old wood, meaning old stems on a hydrangea that blooms on old wood. And the ones that bloom on old wood are Ms.
The
Harris.
ones that bloom on old wood are thank you for involving me. I feel so special. Are the hydrangea corsifolia, your oak leaf hydrangea, and the regular Mac hydrangeas, which are not endless summer. So if you know you've got an endless summer, you got a little bit more leeway there. Also, hydrangea serrata, which is the mountain. But you have very much freedom on blooming the following two, Mrs. Wilburn.
Hydrangea paniculata, which is the panicle hydrangea. There's a million of them, and we love them to death. And Leslie's favorite, and mine not so favorite, although I'm thinking maybe this flowerful could turn me. Hydrangea arborescens, which is the smooth hydrangea. And those,
Okay.
like the arborescens, you can cut down to the ground. And the paniculata, I wouldn't cut it to the ground. I would give it a little bit of shape. I would bring it up maybe, depending, but somewhere in the 18-inch to 24-inch, depending on how tall you want. Or maybe you want to have it as a standard. And I've seen some beautiful, gnarly looking trunks of, pruned and pruned and pruned and pruned because of that. So there you go. We did that in like 3 minutes. Come on. Same thing with roses. You've got different species that you don't want to prune the old wood off because they're going to bloom on the old wood, like a rambling rose. So you're going to go in there, you're going to look at the stems that flowered last year, these big, long, arching things. Look carefully at them. You can see where they flowered last year. Take those canes out, do it at the base or back to an axle that has thrown another cane that is nice and smooth and ready to go for the new year. And then the rest of it, pull it all out, and you're good. Climbing roses are somewhere a little bit of both. You want to just sort of train them and cut down those train those canes and cut down those little, what would you call them? Laterals? The lateral
Yeah, the
branching.
laterals.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then rugosas go down to the ground, and tea roses and shrub roses go down to a framework like a paniculata.
And you can don't be afraid to get rid of quite a few canes.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that the older canes are less floriferous than the younger ones. So if you're gonna get rid of something, get out the loppers and get out an old one.
Right.
Keep the new ones if they're the right size and shape and in the right place. Sometimes the old ones have to stay because, "No, I need it to go over here." And then just realize that a lot of those shrub roses are just gonna burst forth, be so grateful for the extra air and the fewer canes, and just really be very floriferous for you.
And some of those plants, you want to do a little bit of both. A really good example is Sambucus, the elderberry, or Cotinus. So you've got some old flowering stems last year, and you might want to keep that shape, but you want to encourage new stems as well. You want to take out those old flowering, but not bring it all the way back to the beginning so they just send out new shoots that are really going to give you foliage, maybe not as much flower until the very, very last part of the season, and maybe not at all. So you might want to do a half and a half thing with something like elderberry and cotinus.
At the time that this will come out, you might still have quite a bit of snow and ice on the ground because it was a rough winter. And just be aware that even if it's still there, what's underneath of it is probably pretty mushy. And air in soil is just as important as water in soil. And if you're standing on that soil and you compact those air pockets, you're hurting the soil. So soil compaction is real. Make sure you wait for it. I have known people to put out plywood boards so that their weight of their little 2 feet are distributed because they really, oh, Marianne has done that,
It's a good
because they
way.
really want to get in there. There's nothing else to do in the garden and they're just itching to do it. So if you can spread your weight out by using boards, or if you see a part of the garden where, oh, that snow melted a much longer time ago than this other snow, I can work there, but just not here. Be aware of soil compaction.
Yeah, those bulbs are coming up and little tiny seedlings are coming up and you don't want to hurt them. So all of your pruning it can be a bit of a dance in those beds. And if you can get a framework of boards set out, just one to get you walked up to around the shrub and then a few boards around it, then you're doing so much better for your soil structure. But it's not always possible. And I try and do it all the time, but I'm not good at doing it all the time. Now, the other pitfall is not having sharp tools. Big mistake, huge.
Yeah, it invites more surface area where the branch has not been cut well, and more, it's a bigger invitation for disease.
Sharpening your tools is not a tough thing to do. You can get a little diamond file to get most of the burrs off of your pruners, and then you can get a little rubber eraser. And we'll put a lot of these links into the Substack show notes and links and laughs. You can get a little rubber, what is it called? Do you know that? I use that eraser. It gets the rust off. It's the most amazing thing. Milwaukee makes them, and a few other companies make them too.
I use my sharpening stone to sort of rub the sides of it and gets the rust off. I don't know if it really helps the blade, but it makes me feel better. "Oh, that's prettier. We'll get that done."
Yeah,
Yeah, sharp tools are very important,
a little
and,
bit of oil.
for your pruning, you can be using your hand pruners, you can be using snips for a tiny job,
Yeah.
you can be using a cute little hand saw like the Silky Saw we've talked about before, and you could be using loppers. Or hey, why can't you be using a chainsaw if you're going at it really big?
Hmm.
Um, Loppers are an excellent tool, and loppers are for the bigger branches where you really need to get some purchase on them. Do you use an extended pole pruner
Yes, I
when you
do,
garden?
and I love it. I have an ARS that I've had for many years, and it's so lightweight. It's made of aluminum, and it does not take a lot of muscle strength to hold it above my head and get roses, get wisteria. I am about to hit my wisteria way, way, way late, but we've had so much snow on the ground, and I have to admit it's been harder to get myself to go back to that job because of losing all the blooms last year to a late frost, which had never happened to me before. And I was so just completely excited about all of these big fat caterpillars that I had created in this beautifully pruned matrix and then late frost came. And so it's hard to get oneself to do that again, knowing that you can't control the weather. But the fact of the matter is, it was a well pruned plant for the rest of the season. So it wasn't just about the bloom, it was also about the plant. So I need to get my butt in gear and get over myself.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're waiting for you. We're waiting
Yeah.
for you to do that.
Now, again, March 6th, that's a little bit late. You want to have done that actually in January, but who's counting? So get out there and get excited by this job. If you can change it in your head, the same way that you take maintenance and you turn it into stewardship. If you can do that with pruning, like you are a sculptor, you're going out there and you're going to play. Be curious about the plant, play with it, see what it has to tell you, what it wants to do, what it can do. And that might be enough motivation to get you out there with a sharp pair of secateurs in your hand and just going to town.
And keep in mind that it's like a haircut. Even if it's a bad one, it grows back.
Was that a dig at my new haircut?
Let me just take a moment to say that the pruning job that was done, turn side to side, show the people
Oh,
on YouTube.
right. Here we go.
Yeah, there, that's
Thank
the
you.
shortest I have ever seen your hair. Wow, that's great.
So, Les, we're supposed to have a deer fence and a front yard update every episode. So please dish the dirt. Is there anything new in your front garden, remove the lawn design.
Here's what's new. The first thing that has to happen has not happened. And the reason it hasn't happened is a very good reason. I have a lovely friend from Dos Amigos Landscaping. He was the sponsor for this podcast for many years before Marianne joined it. And he's a
And
great
then
guy,
he
but
dropped
he
us.
was,
No, I'm sorry.
no, he dropped me. And then you came along. But he was totally bowled over and swamped, and so was all of his crew by this snowstorm, this ice storm that it was 20 inches of snow up in Connecticut where my kids live. I don't know what it was for you. I want to know. But here in Charlottesville, it got the attention of people to the tune of 1 week of school for no kids and plows not being able to get to people so that they can't get to the grocery store. It was a big deal. So there is no progress on my front garden. Fingers crossed there might be a report in a couple of weeks. What was that storm like for you?
It was about 10 inches, maybe 10, 11 inches. And I have actually enjoyed the heck out of it. And let me tell you why. The deer are on the other side of a fence. And so I did
Yay!
not need to worry that the only thing poking up for them to eat were my precious shrubs. Because they have certainly done some damage on neighbors' shrubs because that's all there is to eat. The second thing is we had extended cold with this snow. So we had the
Yes.
full insulating effect, like the olden days. Cold, it keeps those things underneath it. They're not going to go down to 15 degrees. They're going to stay in that freeze 32
Blanket.
degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that blanket. It's fantastic. And then it was icy. And so it stayed very beautifully. And then the very coolest thing is now we're in a thaw and you're seeing where the snow is melting in certain places first. And that is gold dust information. That is stuff that you can't necessarily see when you're just looking at a plain landscape, a cold landscape. You can't see where the warmth is. And you can when there's snow there and where is it melting first. And that tells you where to put bulbs, early bulbs. It tells you where you might have a little more hardiness. So I've actually really enjoyed this couple 2 weeks of that kind of weather. And we walked all the way down the creek on top of the creek, and that was
That
tons of
is
fun too.
very
Yeah,
cool. And can I just add that it was also very cool being in the other hemisphere where I didn't go through any of that.
that's right.
Well,
We were totally snowed in, but we got a pantry. We heat with wood.
time for Damn I Wish I Planted That, about plants that are looking good in your garden right now, which is, what is right now?
March 6th.
March 6th.
March
Yeah.
6th.
Oh, do you know that two of my grandchildren oh, this is a grandchild story. It'll be really quick. Evo is turning 4, and Evo Tenari is turning 4, and Chip Harris is turning 7. So that's all I have to say about that. It was cool that they were born on the same day, March 6th.
I might use the bell for grandchildren if that ever happens again. Just letting you know.
I'm sorry.
Damn, I wish I planted that. What is yours this week?
I have a cute little thing this week that I don't grow anymore, and I wish I would grow it again. It's called the winter aconite, or Aranthus hyemalis.
Yes.
Hyemalis, actually. Oh, you like that one? Good,
Oh
good.
my gosh, yes.
It's a good one. It's when you just see one that's kind of sad, it's like this jaundiced choir boy looking up at you
The
with this
jaundiced
ruffly
choir boy, jeez. Judge much? The jaundiced choir boy.
I didn't I don't judge him for having jaundice, he's just sort of yellow. I want him to have more choir boys around him because
This poor little
and I
liver
like
trying
ruffled
to keep up.
I like his ruffled collar. It's just such a better plant in mass, and,
Explain this plant.
okay, tiny little thing about 2 inches tall. Its provenance is from France, which is a sort of a French word. It is, deer resistant. It is a bulb. It spreads very nicely, and it is yellow. It's a golden yellow. It's not jaundice. That's a terrible word. And it just looks really good in a mass planting or underneath a tree or a shrub. And I really had a hard time introducing them to my old garden in here in Charlottesville, and none of them made the travel team. I thought maybe by accident, as I was digging up a few
Oh.
things, they would. They did not. And so I'm gonna have to give it another go. Do you grow them?
Yeah, I'll bring you some seed and maybe we can get this thing going just with seed because that's often the best way to do it anyway.
Is it?
is just throw the seed and see where the seed takes. And it once you're growing it, it's very, very easy to collect that seed. Those little pods open up and you just pull that seed out and then throw it further and further. Yeah, I grow it. I love it. You're right. One is not particularly exciting, but a
No.
small patch as it grows and grows, and you can help it grow by taking it's a tiny little bulb, but and you could divide it, but I think just throwing seed and then it's a 3-year process before you're gonna get it.
I've read that, and I probably tried it, but I don't remember my results. Probably not good. I've never grown it well. That doesn't particularly like to be divided.
Mhm.
And so seed is probably the way to go. And I'm glad that you have some. Oh, by the way, it just looks so great as that low patch between also low but taller plants like crocuses and
Snowdrops?
glam
Snowdrops.
snowdrops.
You were
Exactly.
gonna
It
say it,
just
weren't you? Say it,
it looks
Leslie. It looks good with snowdrops. Say the
does
words.
good with snowdrops, yellow and
Mhm.
the purple and the white.
Yeah.
Scrumptious, really good plant. The Witter aconite.
Very early,
Very
very
early.
beautiful. Okay, mine is a lot bigger than that, and mine is a true damn I wish I planted that, not that Leslie's isn't, because I went to somebody's garden last year. I saw this shrub and thought, "Damn, I wish I'd planted that." I saw it at this time last year. I waited until, actually, I think I got it not too soon after that in the spring and got it planted, and now I've got it in my garden, and that is Viburnum boddenense, and this is named after the well,
Fondant.
yeah, it was the one that you love in the north of Wales. It was bred there. It's a specific hybrid between two, I think, like Ferrii and grandiflora, if I'm remembering right. This is a deciduous viburnum, which is well, a lot of them are, but it's a deciduous viburnum that blooms on those sticks on those woods. So in this time of year, you don't have the leaves yet, but you have these beautiful, fragrant pink flowers. And the one that I really, really like is Dawn. Now, I don't know enough about viburnums to say whether or not Dawn is that first cultivar that they did when they bred those 2 together or if it's come along after that, but what I know is I have Dawn and Erica Klein had Dawn, and that's why I have Dawn now because it was gorgeous, it smelled beautifully, it was about 8 to 10 feet tall, zones 5 to 7, so I know that that's a little bit tight for those of you in the, moving down into the 8. And the blooms can be touched by frost, so that is a bit of a gamble. In a milder winter, you're fine, but it also will throw some blooms later as well. So you have a chance as the season is going on to have a few more blooms. But it really is a showstopper, and it's extremely fragrant and something that was completely off my radar. And it was a full damn. I want
I
that.
love that.
I want that in my garden now.
I have a question for you.
Yeah,
So when it blooms initially, it's blooming on sticks, so there are no
it is
leaves
at the end of the
of the
sticks.
branches. When they
At the end of the sticks.
when it blooms later and it's surrounded by leaves, I assume,
No,
does it
I
have a complete
I think
different
that
look?
there are just, more latent buds that are opening up, just a little bit later. I that is only the research that I've done looking at, different books that I have on viburnum here, because this one's been around for a long time, like 1936 it was bred. It's been around a long
Cool.
time. It's not new. It's not
You
patented.
could bring me a cutting.
It's a pass along friend, and I actually got it up at the Galanthus Scala, actually, at a wonderful nursery up there. Andy, thank you very much. So I don't have enough experience with it to say how it does that. So something like Magnolia Jane, you know how it will bloom early in the season on, completely naked stems, but then later
Yes.
in June, fully in leaf, it will send more blossoms. And I don't think this does that, but I think that it's just more latent buds going into April and
All right,
yeah,
good to know. Good plant's a short little yellow guy and a beautiful
a
tall thing.
tall thing.
Pink.
Yeah.
Pink, unlike you.
Pink, I know, but it was so fragrant and I loved that. And now I don't have to spray it with deer spray, so So it'll actually remain fragrant.
I'm excited for you. Oh my gosh, all those deer on the outside.
Yeah.
All right, go off and prune your plants. Have fun with it. They are haircuts that can be fixed.
Like Marianne's.
I'll see you next time.
Bye.